Naomi Wolf, author of the seminal book, The Beauty Myth, and the CEO of the Daily Clout. She also served as an advisor to Al Gore. Naomi, what do you make of my assessment of this being such a remarkable moment in time?
I mean, Mike, you're right. It is a remarkable moment in time, but not because there are new rights. The law is very clear and actually very good on what these alleged violations are. What is changing is women and, some men are done with taking into themselves shame and bad secrets that don't belong to them, and they're bringing them forward, and technology is helping too. Social media allows women who, and I'll just use women for shorthand, men are violated as well, to make claims that then other women in real time can validate. And what happens then is you start to look at the methodology of the perpetrator rather than always singling out the victim and looking at her. What was she wearing? What did she say? Why was it her fault? And what we see again and again as all of these waves of accusations come forward is that perpetrators have often the same methodology over and over. And so that really does radically change our reality. We're looking at historical events that are likely rather than the eternal he said, she said.
With regard to Senator Franken, there are two aspects of this claim. There's the forced kiss and there's the photograph. In Naomi Wolf's assessment, are they equally reprehensible, or is one worse than the other?
Well, I'd really, Mike, like us to get away from these subjective discussions of sexual violation and sexual assault and really drag it always out of culture and emotions into the realm of law. I was in my 50s before I was told by my partner, who's a private investigator, that my professor putting his hand between my thighs against my will when I was 19 is sexual assault. Acquitting CNNs often has been identifying a lot of these violations that are crimes according to state law. It varies state by state, but they are crimes as harassment. That's not accurate. So, forcibly kissing someone is sexual battery or sexual assault, depending on where you are. And in Afghanistan, or even on a plane, if in a military context, that's U.S. law. The U.S. law applies. And the other thing is, I can't see from the image, that extraordinary image, whether Senator Franken or then Al Franken's hands are on Ms. Tweeden's body. But if there's a big difference, if he's touching her, it is sexual battery or sexual assault. If he isn't touching her, it's just an incredibly, horribly insensitive, violating thing to do.
Right. I ask because Leanne Tweeden, in her statement on Facebook and in her interviews, has said that she was groped, and from that photograph, I don't know that he's actually physically touching her. He's maybe just staging something in poor taste, and presumably she would have awakened, right, if he had touched her. I'm just wondering how you assess one.
Not necessarily. I mean, just to jump in, this Tweeden thing of all of these waves of horrible, descriptions of crimes, this Tweeden thing really gets me. I've started to speak publicly about the fact that I, too, am a survivor of childhood rape, and this image is such, it says everything. And it's going to be triggering to a lot of rape victims about rape culture. There is nothing funny about this image. First of all, she's unconscious, so she cannot, she's unconscious, she's exhausted, she's been in a war zone. She legally cannot consent if she is not conscious, if she's asleep. The law is very clear about that. And it just says everything about, how rape culture says women's bodies are yours to enjoy, use, touch, manipulate. They have no boundaries. So it's a very serious image to me. And the thing that really offends me about Senator Franken's apology, even though, it was clearly kind of written with a lot of input from women, and it sounds nominally kind of heartfelt, it infuriates me because it's 2006 when that image took place. It's not 1840. Women like me and all of these other women in the women's movement have been very vocal for decades and decades and decades. And the law is very clear that touching women sexually against their will when they're unconscious, when they're intoxicated, and the law is clear about that, is illegal. And, the other thing is a third of women have already been raped or sexually molested by the time they're 18, 17% of men. He doesn't know if she's already been violated, right? Many women who are victimized are being re-victimized. So it's a very serious image. And I don't think an apology is sufficient in those terms. He should have known better.
You've just anticipated my final question. Where she has accepted his apology, are we obligated as a society to do so?
Well, again, Mike, I don't mean to be so difficult, but I want to keep challenging this notion of what's our social views about this. It's not up to her to decide what standard procedure should be in the Senate when someone's accused of an assault or a violation, right? There should be transparent procedures in every workplace, including in the Senate, including on a USO tour, including in the U.S. military, in Afghanistan, right, where the U.S. was holding this event with a nonprofit. And they should be transparent. I mean, Yale, when I filed a complaint against Dr. Bloom decades later, I filed a formal grievance, as you encouraged women to do. I did it in 2016. And the system is set up to say, well, Naomi, what do you want to have happen? Well, Leanne, what do you want to have happen? It's not up to me. And when a woman files a police report, it's the state that should be prosecuting the
I get it.
perpetrator.
You're making an argument for the rule of law, and I buy into that.
Indeed.
Naomi Wolf.
Thank you.
Naomi, thank you as always.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
What are your thoughts? Tweet me at Smerconish or hit my Facebook page. Catherine, what do we have? From Facebook, I think it's great. The floodgates have opened and women are ready to talk in a forum where people are actually listening and care. And Amanda, as part of my opening commentary, what I was trying to say is, go back to that one if you would, the first one. That's a good thing for women, right? Because now, hopefully, they won't feel ostracized if they bring forth their claims. It's also good for men that there be timely complaints made while memories are fresh and there's other evidence either supporting or in contradiction of the charges. So I think it's all good. One more if I've got time. I'm sorry about that. That was a Twitter I missed. There are sexual assault, sexual harassment, and bad behavior. Don't you think, Franken, is more about bad behavior than sexual assault or harassment? Staged photo with the intent to be funny and a rehearsal kiss that wasn't forced, political, or traumatized. Carol D., I see the two separately. Naomi, I think, suggests that they're equally reprehensible. I treat the photograph differently than I do the forced kiss, which might have been a battery or assault, depending on how it played out. So that's my view of it. Up next, that other potential Senate